In this lesson, we will explore other strategic planning tools. When given the task of project implementation, the team must also consider contingency planning. Contingency plans can take many forms, but their intent is always to have a path for recovery in the event of a setback. FMEAs are types of contingency planning tools that are more narrow in scope. For a broader perspective, scenario planning should be considered. Both of these tools are explored in greater depth in Course 5. In situations where there are many unknowns, ongoing oversight and use of quick response teams can be highly effective when emergencies arise. Pilot runs would be ideal events for these measures. It is important that the steps we take to combat emergencies should not influence the operation of the process or impose any undue encumbrances. PEST stands for political, economic, social, and technological. In Pest Analysis, organizations continually monitor these four factors for any shifts in the market and adjust accordingly. These events can be very obvious or very difficult to detect. Frequent monitoring of these areas can aid in the discovery and understanding of corporate risks. Hoshin-Kan replanting is a matrix method used to narrow performance gaps so that strategic objectives can be achieved. The visual shown here outlines the structure of the matrix. Objectives represent the improvements targeted by the business. Results defines the amount of improvement needed. Target pertains to the timeline for deployment of the improvement. Priorities speak to our strategy for execution. Who documents the responsibility for the strategy. In the corners between the results and objectives and priorities and target, we establish the dependencies between the activities in each section. Names of people responsible for the activities are documented on the right side. Again, we use the same scheme of correlation markers to establish dependencies between the individual and the activity. This tool is very effective in capturing the long-term strategy of the organization by aligning goals with actions. It also helps us localize the most important initiatives and highlights dependencies across improvements, resources, and timing. Porter's 5 forces is also discussed in Course 8. We mention the elements here given their strong connection to the strategic planning process. The 5 forces affect most industries and will likely require significant effort. With the 5 forces defined, the organization can determine the strengths and weaknesses of a company as it pursues a particular strategy. One of the premier features of this approach comes through its potential to fortify the organization's position against competitive forces and exploit shifts in the market as it maneuvers towards opportunities for growth. Portfolio analysis is also covered in Course 8. In portfolio analysis, we generate product portfolio requirements. These requirements drive the product portfolio analysis and architecturing process. Essentially, we are innovating at the strategic level. In the define phase, these product portfolio requirements are translated into technical requirements. After evaluation against competitive benchmarks, the organization selects projects from the best portfolio architecture. A common approach in portfolio analysis is known as IDEA. This process consists of the following phases. First, we identify markets, their segments, and opportunities using technology benchmarking and road mapping. Next, we define portfolio requirements and product architectural alternatives. We then evaluate product alternatives against competitive portfolios and make our selection. Finally, we activate a ranked stable of projects that are prioritized based on resources and market impact.